So now we're going to talk about entering dates and times. As mentioned in the prior movie, dates are numbers, they're values. We're going to see that at work, and we're going to deal with the formatting of dates. And we're going to talk about the serial numbers that are assigned to the numbers that convert those numbers to dates. We're going to look at times. We're going to combine those two and look at dates and times, which is another formatting option. And finally, we're going to enter dates so that Excel recognizes the date and formats the cell as a date. And then we're going to enter times and have Excel format the cell as a time. So entering dates and times, not to beat the dead horse to death, but dates are values, they're numbers. And since they're numbers, they're values, Excel uses a serial numbering system to convert a number to a date. That numbering system begins with the date January 1st, 1900. And so for Excel, dates don't exist, not in the true form, before that period of time, January 1st, 1900. I've never had an issue with that. And there's one error that's built into the serial numbering system, and that is that Excel thinks that February 29th, a leap year, occurred in 1900, and it actually didn't. But again, that's an error that probably nobody is affected by. So dates. I've got a number here, a value. In fact, I have three of them, 1, 2, 3. And knowing that the serial numbering system with dates begins in January 1st, 1900, that is what? That's the first day in the sequence of the serial number. So if I convert this cell to a date, which I can do by going to the drop-down, it is January 1st, 1900. So 2 should be January 2nd, 1900, and 3 should be January 3rd. And in fact, that is the case. So once the cell is formatted as a date, I can put a number in there, let's say 4,000, and Excel will tell me what the 4,000th day after January 1st, 1900 is, ignoring for the fact that February 29th, 1900 never actually happened. And that's the 13th of December, 1910. And just for fun, let's see what the millionth day after January 1st, 1900 is. It's November 26th, the year 4637. So the serial numbering system will take care of you for as long as you need for it to, that's for sure. Times. Times are a fractional portion of a day. I get 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. These are decimals, but I can convert these to times, and when I do, 0.25 will be displayed as the time that it is after the passage of a quarter of a day, which should be 6 o'clock in the morning. 0.5 is the time that it will be in a day after the passage of a half a day, which is 12 noon, and 0.75 is 6 o'clock at night. So when we have a number that's not a whole number, we have a fraction, Excel, when you choose the correct formatting, will convert these to dates and times. So they all begin with 1, so we know we're going to be on January 1st, and 0.25 should be 6 a.m. on January 1st. And we're going to get into a lot of formatting options later on, but I don't have the option to convert this to date and time. But I can go to More Formats, choose Date, scroll down, and choose a format that has a date and a time. And we have January 1st, 1900 at 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. So when we're entering dates, Excel has a way that when you enter the date, it will pick up on the fact that you are entering a date, and it'll reformat the cell as a date. And this brings up a point. When you're putting content into a cell, there's a difference between the way the content is stored and the way it's displayed. The formatting drives the way it's displayed, but the content drives the way it's stored. And dates are stored consistently in Excel regardless of which way you choose to format or display that date. So to the left of where the cursor is, I've got what looks like a series of dates. These are actually not dates. They're left justified, and the prior movie taught us that when content is left justified, it's text. And that's what these are. These are text strings. Dates are values. By default, they would be right justified. So currently, the active cell is the default format, which is the general format. But if what I want to do is enter a date, I can enter a date in any one of the ways on that list, and Excel will pick up the fact that I'm entering a date and format the cell as a date so it displays it as a date and not a number. So I'm going to input just what I see, 12/25/12, Control Enter, and Excel has formatted that cell as a date. I could also have entered 12/25/12, and Excel will also format that as a date. I'm going to go down 2 cells and enter 12/25/12 again. And notice I've only put in 12. I didn't put in 2012 or 1912. And when I Control Enter, Excel thinks what I want is 2012. There's a convention or a default at work where if you enter a date and the last 2 digits of the year are 29 or less, Excel assumes you want the 21st century. If what I enter instead is 30 or higher, Excel assumes I want the 20th century. And to show you that, I'm going to put in 12/25/30, and Excel defaults to 1930 rather than 2030. So those are dates, and you can enter dates in any one of the ways, and actually there's more than just this list. And Excel will pick up on the fact that you're entering a date and format the cell accordingly. Times are the same way. This cell is in the general format. If I enter 7 space AM, Control Enter, Excel formats the cell. It says custom, but it's a time, and I can see in the formula bar that the time is stored with the capacity to also include seconds. It's not formatted to display seconds, although you could choose a formatting that would display seconds. And you could also enter times in military. 30, Control Enter. And again, look at the formula bar. It's 7:30 p.m. So I'm continuing to draw the distinction between the way the number is saved and the way it's displayed, the formatting. And you can also include seconds if you want to. And that's 7:30 and 25 seconds, although it's displayed in military time. So that's dates and times. We talked about the fact that dates are numbers, and there's a serial numbering system at work so that Excel can convert a number and display it, format it as a date. Times are fractional portions of a day, and when you have a whole number and a decimal, you can format that cell to display a date and time. When you're entering dates and when you're entering times, depending upon the way you do it, you can have Excel recognize the fact that you're entering a date or a time, and it'll format the cell accordingly and display what otherwise would be a number like you want it to display, which is either a date or a time.